Welcome. In this video, we're going to review how to do 9YD in iExcel.com. And I'm just going to kind of talk you through a few of the stages. I just want you to get an introduction to this. So this is talking about recursive sequences. So a recursive sequence is something that repeats, but in a way that it depends on the previous term. It's what recurring means. Like recurring is the same thing, keeps on happening. So all of these problems are going to give you what we call the first term of the sequence. So the sequence is A, and this represents the term that you're looking at. So A sub 1 is the first term, okay? And then A sub n is the nth term, meaning it's the recurring pattern that will get you to any term. And it's kind of what you're referring to in order to get the next term, A sub 2, and then the term after that. So once you see it, it will kind of make sense. Now, there is no reason to the first term being, I'm going to swap pens, 10. They simply tell you that it's 10. And now that you know it's 10, you can use the recurring pattern, the recursive formula, A sub n minus 1 plus 3, to generate the next term. And don't be intimidated by this n minus 1 thing. It just means the previous term, okay? That's all that's really saying. It's not like you're subtracting anything. It's just, if I want to get A sub 2, well, I'm going to need to use A sub 2 minus 1. A sub 2 comes from A sub 1 plus 3. Well, luckily, I know what A sub 1 is. A sub 1 is 10, so 10 plus 3 is 13. That's why A sub 2 is 13. And I'm going to write that down. And you might be, well, clearly I can just type it in and, 13, and I can do mental math. Like, no. The problems will get harder. They'll ask for more complicated things. You really want to structure your work so it's clear, and because the nature of a recursive sequence is that it uses itself. So I've got my A sub 2 is 13. Now when I go to do A sub 3, I could write it out. I could say it's, 3 minus 1 plus the 3. But what this means is the next term is just going to inherit that previous term, and then you're going to do something to it. And the formula will tell you what you're going to do. So it's going to be 13 plus 3, which is 16. And if I wanted to figure out A sub 4, well, it's going to be my previous term, 16, plus my formula, the plus 3, which is 19. And A sub 5 would be that 19 plus 3, which is 22. But either way, A sub 3 is 16. So I'm going to type that in. I'm going to submit, and yay, we got it right. So here's another example. And I'll show you the amount of work you should be doing. You should have A sub 1. You could probably skip writing the rule because, let's see, when I go to write the next equation, I'm copying the rule. I'm writing 2 times, and instead of writing A sub n minus 1, I know that this is my A sub n minus 1. It would be 2, so this is 4. And then I'm going to, for my next term, I'm going to go back to that formula, and I'm going to write 2 times, and then I know what's going in there is the previous term. So it would be 4, which is 8, and then A sub 4 is that same pattern of fill it with the previous, is 16, and then A sub 5 is that pattern of timesing by 2, but the previous 16 is 32. So for this problem, a sub 2 and a sub 3, it's 4 and 8, but it's really useful to have your work shown. Let's do one more, and then we'll move on. So here, this is why showing your work is important, because they're not asking for a sub 2, they're asking for a sub 3, okay? And you can't do a sub 3 unless you know a sub 2. So maybe you want to write the rule. The rule is 9 times the previous term, right? Now I'm going to refer to this. Anytime I do a term, I'm looking at that. So I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be 9 times the previous term. It's going to be 9 times the previous term. It's not doubling. That's where I was kind of making mistakes. So then when I do 4, it's 9 times the previous term. And then when I do 5, it's 9 times the previous term. And this is where, like, I need a calculator. So I'm going to say, well, 9 times 18. Let me just clear everything. 9 times 18 is going to give me 162, and that times 9 is going to give me, and that times 9. So it's 162. And then if I were to finish it out, it would be 1458, because it's that 162 times 9. And then it's that 9 times 1458, which is going to give me 13122. But either way, they didn't ask for the fourth or fifth term. They just asked for the third term, 162. Okay, so that's an introduction to recursive sequences. We'll be dealing with this more and more, but I just didn't want to throw you into the homework blind. I wanted to give you a video and show you some examples. So thank you very much.